Warm sunlight came pouring down from the sky like a waterfall. Under the warm sunlight, the deathly aura that permeated the place had also quickly disappeared. Lei Ying and the rest finally sighed in relief after the surrounding deathly aura had completely vanished. They lifted their eyes and looked around. Currently, they were still in the Burial Mountain range. However, no life had remained in the current mountain range. Clearly, all life had been eroded by the deathly aura from earlier. A black mass of experts from the Hun clan stood in the sky a short distance from the Alliance. Their eyes revealed a ferocious glow as they stared at the Alliance army. However, the expressions of some of the upper echelons amongst them were quite ugly. Clearly, they did not expect that this so-called ultimate killing formation was actually unable to cause much harm to the Alliance army. What happened? Why has the Death World been destroyed with such ease? The expression of the Nihility devouring flame quickly became gloomy. He looked at Hun Tiandi's group and demanded furiously. Hun Tiandi's group could only smile bitterly in the face of the anger of the Nihility devouring flame. The grayish dark-faced elder hesitated for a moment before replying honestly. Hun Tiandi's deathly silence gate had been snatched by Xiao. Currently, the formation isn't complete. Moreover, that Xiao had used the strength of the deathly silence gate to protect the Alliance army. The Alliance army subsequently combined their attacks and forcefully break the area guarded by Hun Tiandi. Bastard! Such an important thing has actually been stolen? What is the point of keeping you around? A fierce glint immediately flashed across the Nihility devouring flame's eyes when he heard this. His eyes were dense as he stared at Hun Tiandi. After which, he slammed his hand violently and the space crumbled. A black flame palm landed on Hun Tiandi's body with lightning-like speed, causing the already injured Hun Tiandi to have a weary aura. He clenched his teeth and could only quietly accept the attack. The position of the Nihility devouring flame in the Hun clan was basically comparable to Hun Tiandi. Without his existence, it would have been impossible for the Hun clan to last until now. Nihility, sir, it is pointless to be angry now. The Alliance army has not suffered much of a loss. On the other hand, we have exhausted the life force within our bodies. It is impossible for us to use the formation again. The grayish dark-faced elder could only sigh after seeing this scene. Finally, he opened his mouth and pursued. Although Hun Tiandi had committed an extremely foolish mistake, he was also a veteran of the Hun clan. Killing him at this moment would be a big loss to the Hun clan. The Nihility devouring flame had a dark and gloomy expression. He glanced at the Alliance army in the distance. Although the Alliance had suffered some losses in the Death World, it was clearly not extremely serious. Their fighting strength was still extremely strong. Let's withdraw for today. Nihility, do it? An icy cold voice suddenly resounded beside the ears of the experts from the Hun clan, while the latter were quiet. Their bodies ended up shuddering. This voice belonged to Hun Tiandi. Humph! The Nihility devouring flame snorted coldly upon hearing this. He once again glared ruthlessly at the pale-looking Hun Tiandi. However, he did not disobey Hun Tiandi's orders. He inhaled a deep breath of air, and his body suddenly began to swell wildly. A torrent of black flames surged out from within his body in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it had already swept throughout the entire world. The lush green forest of the Burial Mountain range below had been turned into ashes in an instant. Even the mountain rocks were turned into dust. The caution of the Alliance army surged after seeing this action of the Nihility devouring flame. Xiaoyan's expression was grave as he rose into the air. Little E appeared ferocious as it stood on his shoulder. The pink, purifying demonic lotus flame spread over the sky and turned into a huge fire curtain, which surrounded the Alliance army. With Xiaoyan's current spiritual strength, he was able to easily unleash the strength of the purifying demonic lotus flame to its fullest extent. Roar! The nihility-devouring flame's icy cold eyes looked at Xiao Yan. A low beast-like roar was emitted from his throat. Immediately, his body, which had swelled to 1,000 feet, suddenly exploded. Bang! The sudden explosion caused the entire place to shake violently. Black flames covered the sky. The black flame seemed to have begun to gather at an extremely frightening speed at the spot where the nihility-devouring flame had exploded. Within a short moment, a swiftly rotating black flame hole had appeared in the sky at that spot. The many experts from the Hun clan seemed to have received an order when they saw the black hole being formed. All of them rushed forward without a word being spoken, after which they shot into the black hole. They are about to flee. The expressions of Lei Ying and the others changed upon seeing this scene. Many experts quickly rose into the air. Powerful doji shot out one after another without a need for any orders. Finally, they smashed towards the black hole from all directions. Humph! Faced with the sudden fierce attack from the many experts of the Alliance army, a cold snort was suddenly emitted from the nihility-devouring flame within the black hole. Immediately, black flame erupted like a volcano, surging out and colliding directly with the many attacks. After which, a devouring power erupted and wildly swallowed the many attacks. Trying to leave? It won't be so easy. Xiao Yan clearly found his target. He laughed coldly as the seals formed by his hands changed. A 10,000 feet body slowly appeared. The yellow spring divine anger that was unleashed by his D-state soul had a strength that was even more terrifying than his extermination fire lotus. This was an extremely pressurizing attack against those experts whose spiritual strength was inferior to him. The damage of one's soul was not something that one could recover from simply resting. Mao! The moment the figure appeared, an earth-shaking spiritual attack shot out at a shocking speed. Even the devouring power of the black flames had been forcefully shattered under this spiritual assault. The spiritual attack ruthlessly smashed onto the black hole. Immediately, the bodies of at least 100 experts from the Hun clan exploded and turned into a bloody fog, which scattered within the black hole. The black hole also began to shake violently in the face of this head-on spiritual attack. There was a deep moan being vaguely emitted. Clearly, the nihility-devouring flame was unable to endure such an attack. Attack together! Xiao Yan cried in a deep voice. He frowned after seeing that the yellow spring divine anger was unable to destroy the black hole despite having some effect on it. With Gu Yuan being held back, the entire Alliance army did not object to some of Xiao Yan's orders. Even Lei Ying and the others had quietly nodded after sensing just how frightening Xiao Yan's spiritual strength was. Looking from just the point of fighting strength, Xiao Yan was already comparable with them. Hence, a large group of experts quickly rose into the sky after hearing Xiao Yan's cry. Various different Do skills were used at this moment, after which the entire place shook under the vast and mighty attack. The densely packed attacks caused even someone with the strength of the nihility-devouring flame to feel his skin turning numb. Buzz buzz! Some hurried buzzing sound was emitted from within the black hole in the face of such a terrifying lineup. Soon after, one could see an endless number of black light erupting from it. Finally, a black ray of light that covered the sky collided violently with the attack of the Alliance army. Immediately, an indescribable frightening energy spread wildly across the sky. The entire mountain range was cut into two by the waves. 100,000 feet, large deep gullies stretched from the mountain range into the horizon. Hold them back. We must not allow them to leave with the ancient jade. Xiao Yan lifted his head. His eyes shot towards the brilliant fireworks in the sky as he cried out loud. 9 lightning calamity palm. Burning flame blazing sky. Yellow Spring Divine Anger. The entire Alliance army's truly strong individuals had unleashed their strongest attacks at this moment. Immediately, the appearance of the sky was altered. Those observers in the distance felt their hearts trembled from fear. Some of the weaker individuals directly fell onto the ground. This was the first time that they had witnessed an attack of such strength. Bastard! Faced with such a terrifying attack, an irritated curse was also emitted from the nihility-devouring flame within the black hole. He was unable to withstand such a strike. Chi! The frightening attack had arrived almost instantly. However, the attacks were about to strike onto the black hole when a tall figure suddenly appeared in a flash. His expression was dark and solemn, while his hands suddenly tore at the space in front of him. 100,000 feet large spatial crack erupted and swallowed all the powerful attacks from Xiao Yan's group. Hun Tiandi. Xiao Yan's expression sunk after he saw the figure which had intervened. The space beside Xiao Yan fluctuated after Hun Tiandi appeared. Gu Yuan surfaced from it. At this moment, the latter's long hair was in a mess. An aura, which caused even Xiao Yan to be terrified, quietly spread, causing the surrounding space to continue breaking and mending. What a great Xiao Yan! Hun Tiandi's originally calm face was covered with a dark and cold murderous intent at this moment. He naturally understood that Xiao Yan's act of stealing the deathly silence gate had completely spoilt the Hun clan's plans of severely damaging the Alliance army in this place. Xiao Yan's eyes were also dark and solemn as he stared at Hun Tiandi. He did not hide the murderous desire in his eyes. He also wanted to kill Hun Tiandi. Gu Yuan, consider yourselves lucky this time around. However, I have already gathered all the ancient jades. Once I advance to the Do-D class, your 3 clans and the Sky Mansion Alliance will be completely eliminated from the Do-Chi continent. Hun Tiandi looked at Xiao Yan before his eyes turned towards Gu Yuan. A dense, cold smile was slowly lifted on his face. His body was slowly pulled back. Finally, he stepped into the black hole. The black hole shook and swiftly vanished. After which, the black flame that covered the place quickly paled. Gu Yuan, just you wait. The next time we meet, all of you will tremble and bow under my feet. Ha ha. The black hole disappeared. However, Hun Tiandi's dark and cold laughter continued to reverberate across the sky for a long time. Xiao Yan looked at the spot where the black hole had disappeared. His expression was cold as he involuntarily clenched his hands tightly. It was unexpected that the combined effort of the 3 clans and the Sky Mansion Alliance was unable to hold the Hun clan back. The latter was really too strong. How hateful! They had still managed to escape. Lei Ying and the others clenched their teeth with great dissatisfaction as they looked at the place where the black hole had disappeared. It was unexpected that even the 3 great clans and the Sky Mansion Alliance were actually unable to retain the Hun clan. The strength that the Hun clan had displayed had far exceeded what we knew about them in the past. Yin Jin's expression was grave. From a certain point of view, the current Hun clan is no longer something that any single faction could fight against alone. Even the Gu clan was unable to do so. It was precisely because of this that the danger he felt in his heart had increased. If the 3 clans had not cooperated, it was likely that they would be finished off by the Hun clan one at a time. Their fate would likely be no different for the Yao, Ling, and Shi clan. The Hun clan has hidden too deeply during these years. Gu Yuan, whose hair was in a mess, had a face that was also unusually grave. They always thought that even if the Gu clan was unable to defeat the Hun clan with its strength, the Gu clan should at least be equivalent to the Hun clan in strength. However, the cruel reality today had told them that the Gu clan was really no match for the Hun clan. Hun Tiandi is right. When the Xiao clan was defeated back then, there was no faction on this continent who could fight with them. Unfortunately, this truth was something that we are only aware of at today. Gu Yuan sighed. He also felt some regret in his heart. If the Xiao clan was still present, the Hun clan would likely not dare to start this war regardless of how bold it was. Lei Ying and the others laughed bitterly after hearing these words. It was a little too late to speak about this now. What should we do now? Xiao Yin was momentarily quiet before he replied. Everyone's eyes were thrown towards Gu Yuan after they heard this. The latter mused for a moment upon seeing this. Finally, he said, the Hun clan has already obtained all of the two Shi ancient god jade. After they recuperate, it is likely that they are going to put the ancient jades together and learn of the location of the two Shi ancient god mansion. The only thing that we can do now is to carefully observe the Hun clan. If any of their experts moved, we will quietly follow them until the location of the two Shi ancient god mansion. If it's spying on them, I'm afraid that the Hun clan would slip away and escape from us. By the time we discover it, it is likely that they have already entered the ancient god mansion. Lang frowned and said, this was something that the Hun clan specializes in. They had not sensed anything wrong when the Hun clan had quietly destroyed the Ling, Shi, and Yao clans. This time around, I will personally observe them. Gu Yuan spoke in a deep voice. He understood the importance of this matter. If the Hun clan managed to successfully open the mansion and obtain the secret to advance into the Do D class, it was likely that they would not have the opportunity to turn things around. In the eyes of a genuine Do D, the so-called Alliance Army would appear extremely insignificant. Everyone finally nodded after hearing these words. The two strongest Indivai. There would definitely be a big war once they reached the location of the two Shi ancient god mansion. This time around, even if we fight until many die, we must not allow the Hun clan to do what they please. Gu Yuan's expression was solemn as he spoke. Everyone nodded in unison. They understood that if they were to fail in this battle at the mansion, their fate would be the same as the other three clans. In order to retain their clan's bloodline, they must fight until death regardless of the great price they had to pay. The victor survives while the defeated dies. The army has remained at the Sky Mansion Alliance during this period of time and strictly observed the action of the Hun clan. Additionally, I feel that we should take the opportunity of this period of time to destroy the locations of all the Hall of Soul, which acts as the claws of the Hun clan, on the Central Plains. Xiao Yin opened his mouth and said after making a decision, the Hall of Soul, huh? It is perhaps time to completely destroy this tumor. Lei Ying and the others mused for a moment upon hearing this. A fierce glint flashed over their eyes. They were well aware of the actions of the Hall of Soul during these years. This faction had been collecting souls from all over the place. From the looks of it now, it seemed that the revival of the older generations of the Hun clan's experts like Hun Tiandi, who should have died a long time ago, had some relation with this. In that case, let's get this Alliance army to camp at the Sky Mansion Alliance. That place stands on the Central Plains, and we will be able to monitor every action of the Hun clan. Gu Yuan did not object. Remaining in the Central Plains would make it convenient to monitor the Hun clan. Xiao Yin smiled and nodded, after which he turned his head towards Yao Lao and said, Teacher, I'll leave the matter of the army to you. Haha, relax. The Alliance might be lacking in many ways, but we have a lot of room. It should not be a problem for these people to stay there. Yao Lao fondled his beard and laughed. Additionally, the position of Chief of the Sky Mansion Alliance had been shifted to you before the army had set off. You are most suitable than me to take this position now. Xiao Yin was startled. He looked at the smile on Yao Lao's face and nodded helplessly. Currently, the alliance was becoming stronger. It did require a powerful alliance chief. Yao Lao might have the necessary reputation, but he was a little lacking in terms of strength. Allowing Xiao Yin to take the position would likely further stabilize the alliance. Xiao Yin once again left some instructions to Yao Lao and the rest before he suddenly turned his head to look at Kailin and Sun Er. He softly said, the both of you should follow me. Xiao Yin rushed towards a distant mountain after his words sounded. Kai Lin and Sun Er also understood him after seeing this. Their faces became slightly flush. They clenched their hands tightly. Their hearts, which showed no fear in the face of a large army, actually began to feel slightly anxious. Both ladies quickly glanced at each other as though they were cheering each other on, after which they clenched their silver teeth gently and followed. Xiao Yan's figure landed on a mountain in the distance. The few experts from the alliance on the mountain quickly stood up after they saw his arrival. They bowed and welcomed him. Respect and fear filled their faces. Alliance chief, I have troubled everyone. Xiao Yin waved his hand and quickly walked towards Xiao Zhan, who was guarded by everyone. He bowed respectfully and softly asked, Father, are you all right? Xiao Zhan looked at this somewhat skinny young man in front of him, whose hands seemed to possess the strength to fight the heavens. His eyes once again became moist. Pride and relief filled his heart. Although he was a great distance away earlier, he had also clearly seen the earth shaking like big battle earlier. The terrifying strength which Xiao Yin had displayed during the big battle had caused him to be excited and pleased. During these years he had spent in the Hun clan, he clearly understood just how frightening the Hun clan was. Yet, even such a terrifying opponent seemed to have suffered a serious damage in the hands of this youngest son of his. Yin'er, you have grown? Xiao Zhan's rough, large hand patted Xiao Yan's shoulder. Back in the distant past, when everyone had thought that this former genius of the Xiao clan would become completely useless, only he stubbornly believed that the youth would one day soar to the skies. Decades later, the useless youth in the Wu-Tang city back then had already stood at the peak of this continent and overlooked everything on it. Xiao Yin involuntarily felt a heartache as he looked at Xiao Zhan's much older face. He forcefully smiled and slowly moved his body aside. Two beautiful figures, which caused everything in the world to pale in comparison, were revealed behind him. Uncle Xiao, do you still remember Sun Er? Sun Er's face were slightly flushed as she bowed gracefully and whispered, Sun Er? Xiao Zhan was startled. He looked at this beautiful fairy-like lady in front of him. Finally, he recalled the most brilliant and mysterious young lady of the Xiao clan back then. A joy immediately surged on his face. This was the most satisfactory daughter-in-law in his opinion about back then. However, the latter's status caused him to understand that it was merely wishful thinking on his part. He had even knocked Xiao Yan's head frequently because of this, telling him not to get too deep with Sun Er. Father, Sun Er is currently a member of our Xiao clan. Xiao Yan approached Xiao Zhan and laughingly said, Good fellow, you have really not disappointed your father. Xiao Zhan's elderly face revealed a great joy after hearing this. His palm slapped onto Xiao Yan's back. Sun Er's face had turned red with embarrassment after hearing the conversation of the two. His face was brilliant and alluring. Who is this? Xiao Zhan was happy for a moment before his eyes suddenly looked at Kai Lin at the side. The latter was quietly standing in one corner with a bewitching and tempting appearance. However, her originally cold, pretty face had become a lot quieter and gentler. It caused Xiao Yin to be a little stunned. This is also your daughter-in-law, Kai Lin. Xiao Yan's expression was a little unnatural. He coughed dryly and spoke in a low voice. Ugh! Xiao Zhan's face twitched slightly. He covertly gave Xiao Yin a thumbs up. Father, you should also have heard of Kai Lin. She has another name called Queen Medusa, Xiao Yin laughed. Queen Medusa? Xiao Zhan's mind trembled slightly upon hearing this name, which he had once known very well. Even though he had currently seen many experts, his heart still had a lingering horror towards this Queen Medusa, whose fierce reputation was well known throughout the entire Jiama Empire back then. After all, this was a name that no one had dared to even mention at the Jiama Empire back then. However, he did not expect that this Queen Medusa, who had frightened the entire Jiama Empire and a couple neighboring empires, would actually also become his daughter-in-law. Uncle Xiao, that is all in the past. You can call me Kailin. Kailin smiled sweetly. She immediately glared at Xiao Yan icily and quietly warned him not to talk about the matters in the past. Xiao Yan involuntarily smiled in the face of Kailin's warning, after which he looked at Xiao Zhan and smilingly said, "Father, let's return to the Sky Mansion Alliance first. Ugh, your granddaughter is also waiting for you there. At that time, I will also call Big Brother and Second Brother over. Our family will be able to reunite again." Granddaughter? Gu Zhan widened his mouth. Various emotions immediately appeared in his heart. This little fellow, was he not a little too efficient?